April 1954. On a Warner Brothers soundstage in Burbank, California, a 23-year-old actor stood before the camera, about to perform a scene that would break him completely. The cameras were rolling. The lights were hot. And James Dean was preparing to relive the worst moment of his life. The moment when his father rejected him. Except this time, millions of people would watch. The birthday scene in East of Eden lasted less than 5 minutes of screen time. But those 5 minutes would become the most emotionally devastating performance in Hollywood history. Critics would call it raw, volcanic, heartbreaking. They didn't know they were watching real trauma, real abandonment, real pain pouring out of a young man who had never healed from his father sending him away at age 9. This is the story of how one scene, filmed in one take, captured James Dean's entire wounded soul. This is about the moment when acting stopped being performance and became something more dangerous. Therapy without a doctor, confession without absolution, grief without end. This is about the 5 minutes that proved James Dean wasn't acting at all. He was bleeding on camera, and Elia Kazan just kept filming. To understand why the birthday scene destroyed James Dean, you have to understand what led up to it in the film and in Dean's real life. In East of Eden, Cal Trask is the unwanted son. His father, Adam, loves his brother Aaron, the good son, the obedient son, the one who never causes trouble. Cal is different, moody, intense, too sensitive. He craves his father's approval with a desperation that makes everyone uncomfortable. He would do anything, sacrifice anything, become anything, if it would make his father love him. Sound familiar? Because it was James Dean's autobiography. Dean's real father, Winton Dean, sent 9-year-old James away to live with relatives in Indiana after his mother died. Young James experienced this as total rejection. First, his mother abandoned him by dying. Then his father abandoned him by sending him away. The rest of Dean's life was a frantic attempt to earn approval from father figures who could never give him what he needed. In the film, Cal discovers that his mother isn't dead. She runs a brothel in Monterey. He visits her, asks for a loan of $5,000. She gives it to him, amused by the irony that her dirty money will be used for something good. Cal invests the money in a bean-growing business. World War I is starting. Bean prices are skyrocketing, and Cal makes a fortune. But he doesn't want the money for himself. He wants to give it to his father. Cal's plan is simple and heartbreaking. He'll present the money to his father as a birthday surprise, repaying the fortune his father lost in a failed business venture. The money will prove Cal is good, responsible, worthy of love. The money will finally make his father see him, approve of him, love him the way he loves Aaron. It's a child's logic, really. If I'm good enough, successful enough, valuable enough, then maybe Daddy will finally love me. James Dean understood this logic in his bones. He'd been living it his entire life. Director Elia Kazan was a genius at extracting authentic emotion from actors. He'd co-founded the Actors Studio in New York, pioneering the method approach that encouraged actors to draw on their real experiences and emotions. Kazan didn't want beautiful, polished performances. He wanted truth, even if the truth was ugly and uncomfortable. When he cast James Dean as Cal Trask, Kazan knew exactly what he was getting. A young man so damaged, so wounded, so desperate for father love that he could channel bottomless pain into the role. Kazan had seen Dean audition, the way Dean practically vibrated with need and rage. the way his emotions lived right on the surface, barely contained. For the birthday scene, Kazan needed Dean to show the complete destruction of hope. He needed to see a young man's heart break in real time. He needed the audience to feel physically uncomfortable watching someone's soul disintegrate. Kazan prepared the scene carefully. He cast Raymond Massey as Adam Trask, Cal's father. Massey was perfect for the role. Cold, rigid, morally certain, completely incapable of emotional flexibility. He was a classically trained British actor who thought method acting was self-indulgent nonsense. He and Dean hated each other immediately, which was perfect for Kazan. The tension between Massey and Dean wasn't acting. It was real animosity. Massey thought Dean was undisciplined and difficult. Dean thought Massey was a wooden, emotionless robot. When the camera rolled, their genuine dislike charged every scene with authentic conflict. Kazan rehearsed the birthday scene for days. He wanted to find every possible emotional beat, every moment of hope and devastation. He worked with Dean privately, asking him to remember times when he'd tried to please his own father and failed. These forgotten stories deserve to be told. If you think so too, subscribe and like this video. Thank you for keeping these memories alive. Dean talked about returning to California as a teenager, hoping his father Winton would welcome him with open arms. Instead, Winton had remarried. There was a new wife, a new life. James was an intruder, a reminder of a dead first wife, a troubled kid who didn't fit into Winton's respectable new existence. Dean told Kazan about buying his father a gift once, spending money he didn't have on something he thought would impress Winton. His father had barely acknowledged it, made some comment about James wasting money. That moment, the hopeful presentation, the casual dismissal, became the emotional template for the birthday scene. During rehearsals, Kazan watched Dean work himself into increasingly emotional states. Dean would perform the scene, building to Cal's breakdown, and then he'd need 20 minutes to calm down afterward. His hands would shake. Sometimes he'd cry for real. The line between character and self was dissolving dangerously. The other actors were uncomfortable. Julie Harris, who played Abra, Cal's love interest, watched Dean transform during rehearsals and felt worried for him. He wasn't pretending, she said later. He was actually going through it, every time, like it was happening to him for the first time. Kazan knew this was risky. He was asking Dean to rip open old wounds and bleed on camera. But Kazan also knew this was why Dean would be great. The performance wouldn't be acting. It would be confession, exorcism, primal scream. The birthday party scene starts with celebration. Cal and Abra have decorated the Trask house. There's a cake, presents, careful planning. Cal is nervous, but hopeful. He keeps touching the money in his pocket, the $5,000 in cash that will prove his worth to his father. Then Aaron arrives with his own surprise. He and Abra are engaged. Watch Dean's face in this moment. The news hits him like a physical blow, not just because he has feelings for Abra, which he does, but because his brother has just stolen the spotlight. This was supposed to be Cal's moment, his chance to finally impress his father, and Aaron has upstaged him without even trying. Adam Trask is delighted. He congratulates Aaron, smiles genuinely for the first time in the film. This is what he wants. His good son, making good choices, following the proper path. Marriage, stability, righteousness. This is love worth celebrating. Dean's performance in these moments is incredibly subtle. Cal tries to smile, tries to join the celebration, but his face keeps betraying him. Flickers of pain, jealousy, abandonment cross his features. He's losing the room, losing the moment, losing his father's attention before he's even had it. Julie Harris, as Abra, watches Cal with growing concern. She sees his desperation, understands that he's about to make some grand gesture, and she's terrified for him. The tension builds. Everyone can feel something is about to break. Cal interrupts the engagement celebration. He has a gift, too, for his father. A surprise. Adam Trask is confused. What gift could Cal have? Cal doesn't have money. Cal barely has a job. What could this troubled son possibly offer? Cal pulls out the money. $5,000 in cash, a fortune in 1917. He explains, his words tumbling out desperately. He went into business, growing beans, made a profit, and he wants to give it to his father. To repay the money Adam lost, to make things right. Dean performs this explanation with heartbreaking hope in his voice. This is Cal's moment. This is when his father will finally see him, will finally understand that Cal can be good, can be valuable, can be worthy of love. Adam Trask looks at the money, looks at his son, and his face closes down. I don't want it, Adam says. The words hit Cal and Dean like bullets. Adam continues, and every word is a knife. If you want to give me a present, give me a good life. That's something I could value. But it gets worse. Adam explains that the money is tainted. Cal profited from the war, from farmers' desperation. This isn't honest money. This is war profiteering. Cal didn't earn it through hard work and virtue. He earned it by exploiting tragedy. You're trying to buy my love, Adam says, and his voice is disgusted. Then comes the killing blow. Adam compares Cal's gift to Aaron's. Aaron's gift is honest and good. This is the moment. The moment when James Dean stopped acting and started surviving. Watch his face. Watch the hope drain out of his eyes, replaced by devastation so complete it's almost unwatchable. His mouth opens slightly, trying to form words, but nothing comes out. His hands, still holding the rejected money, start to tremble. Dean's breathing becomes rapid, shallow. His eyes fill with tears that he's desperately trying not to shed because crying would be weakness, would be one more thing his father could judge him for. His whole body seems to shrink, to collapse inward. He tries to give the money back to his father. Maybe if he just explains better, maybe if he tries harder. But Adam won't take it, won't even touch it. The money represents everything wrong with Cal. His impulsiveness, his moral confusion, his desperate need for approval. Cal backs away from his father, the money still in his hands, and something inside him shatters. You can see it happen. The moment when hope dies. When the child finally understands that nothing he does will ever be enough. That his father will never love him the way he needs to be loved. Abra follows Cal out of the room. She tries to comfort him. But Aaron follows too, and he's angry. He tells Cal to stay away from Abra. The brothers argue, and Cal's pain transforms into rage. This is when Cal tells Aaron the truth about their mother. That she's not dead. That she runs a brothel. That everything their father told them was a lie. Cal drags Aaron to see her, forcing him to confront the truth, destroying his brother's innocence because Cal's own has been destroyed. But the birthday scene, the actual moment of rejection, is the fulcrum. Everything that comes after flows from that rejection. Cal's rage, his cruelty, his self-destruction. It all starts when his father refuses his gift. Kazan filmed the birthday scene in one long take. No cuts, no breaks, no opportunity for Dean to reset emotionally between shots. The camera followed Dean as he presented the money, absorbed the rejection, tried desperately to salvage the moment, and finally broke down completely. Dean didn't know Kazan was planning to shoot it this way. He thought they'd do the scene in pieces, the way most films were made. He could have prepared himself emotionally, saved his breakdown for a specific moment. Instead, Kazan just called action and let the scene play out. Dean lived through the entire emotional journey in real time. The hope, the presentation, the confusion, the rejection, the desperate pleading, the final shattering. He experienced all of it as one continuous trauma. By the time the scene ended, Dean was genuinely destroyed. He wasn't acting devastated. He was devastated. When Kazan called cut, Dean didn't come out of character. He stayed in that broken emotional state, hands shaking, tears streaming down his face, breathing in ragged gasps. The crew stood in uncomfortable silence, not knowing what to do. This wasn't normal. This was too real, too raw, too dangerous. Julie Harris went to Dean, tried to comfort him. He couldn't speak. He just shook his head, unable to articulate what he was feeling. Because what he was feeling wasn't Cal Trask's rejection. It was James Dean's. Every time his father sent him away, every time he tried to earn love and failed, every wound from his childhood had been ripped open and was bleeding fresh. Kazan watched Dean's breakdown and knew he had something unprecedented on film. This wasn't a performance. This was a young man having a genuine emotional crisis, captured on camera for eternity. The method acting technique that Lee Strasberg taught at the Actors Studio was built on a simple but dangerous premise. Use your real emotions, your real memories, your real pain to fuel authentic performances. Don't pretend to feel sad. Remember something that actually made you sad, and let those real feelings inform your character. For actors with mild, manageable traumas, this technique could produce powerful performances. But for actors like James Dean, whose wounds were still open and bleeding, the method was psychological Russian roulette. Dean didn't have to dig deep to access Cal Trask's pain. His pain was right there, on the surface, barely contained. Every day of his life, he carried the wound of parental rejection. The method didn't ask him to pretend. It asked him to stop pretending, to let the pain out, to bleed for the camera. The birthday scene was the moment Dean bled the most. After that single take, Kazan tried to film the scene again from different angles to get coverage. But Dean couldn't do it. He couldn't summon that level of raw emotion again. He'd given everything in that first take, excavated something so deep and painful that going back there was impossible. Kazan understood. He had what he needed. That single, unbroken take where James Dean's soul shattered on camera. That was the scene. That was the truth Kazan had been hunting. Raymond Massey, who played Adam Trask, was disturbed by Dean's performance. Massey came from a different acting tradition, controlled, technical, precise. He believed actors should use their craft, not their psyches. Watching Dean essentially have a nervous breakdown during the birthday scene made Massey deeply uncomfortable. "That's not acting," Massey said later. "That's something else. Something unhealthy." If you want more untold stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. Your support means everything to us." He was right. It wasn't acting. It was trauma, unprocessed and explosive, channeled through a character. Dean was using the film as therapy, except there was no therapist, no safe container, no one helping him process what he was excavating. The animosity between Massey and Dean actually deepened after the birthday scene. Massey felt Dean was being manipulative, using real pain to upstage everyone else, making the other actors look emotionally shallow by comparison. But Dean wasn't trying to upstage anyone. He was just trying to survive the scene, to get through it without completely falling apart. The fact that his pain registered as the most authentic performance anyone had ever seen wasn't calculation. It was catastrophe, barely contained. The birthday scene changed the entire trajectory of East of Eden. Every scene after it is tinged with the knowledge that Cal has been fundamentally rejected by his father. When Cal forces Aaron to confront their mother, when Aaron has a breakdown and enlists in the army, when Adam has a stroke and Cal must care for him, all of it flows from that single moment of rejection. In the film's final scene, Adam lies paralyzed from a stroke. Cal sits beside his bed, begging for some sign of love, some acknowledgement that he matters to his father. Adam finally whispers something to Cal. The words are unclear, but Cal's face transforms. He tells Abra that his father wants Cal, only Cal, to take care of him. It's redemption, sort of. Adam finally needs his son, finally sees him, finally chooses him over Aaron. But watch Dean's face in this final scene. Yes, there's relief. Yes, there's a kind of joy. But there's also exhaustion, weariness. The understanding that this acceptance came too late and cost too much. Dean knew that feeling intimately. By the time his real father, Winton, tried to reconcile with him, Dean was already too damaged, too angry, too hurt to fully forgive. The wounds had calcified. The acceptance, when it finally came, couldn't heal what had been broken. When East of Eden premiered on March 9, 1955, critics were divided on James Dean's performance. Some saw genius. Jack Moffat of The Hollywood Reporter wrote, "This is the boy who is apt to captivate the typical movie fans. He is that rare thing, a young actor who is a great actor, and the troubled eloquence with which he puts over the problems of misunderstood youth may lead to his being accepted by young audiences as a sort of symbol of their generation." Others were confused or dismissive. Bosley Crowther of the New York Times called Dean's performance a mass of histrionic gingerbread, clearly imitating Marlon Brando. He couldn't understand what made Dean different from other method actors. What Crowther missed was that Dean wasn't imitating anyone. He wasn't using technique. He was hemorrhaging on screen, and audiences could feel it even if critics couldn't articulate it. The birthday scene, in particular, generated extreme reactions. Some viewers found it too painful to watch. Others were mesmerized by its raw authenticity. Nobody could agree on whether it was the best or worst acting they'd ever seen. But everyone agreed it was unlike anything they'd witnessed before. Young people especially connected with the scene. They saw their own struggles with parental approval, their own desperate attempts to be seen and valued, their own experiences of rejection and shame. James Dean in the birthday scene became a mirror for every teenager who'd ever tried to please a parent and failed. In the months after filming East of Eden, James Dean rarely talked about the birthday scene. When interviewers asked about it, he'd deflect, change the subject, make a joke. The scene was too close, too real, too painful to discuss casually. But his friends noticed changes in him. He was more volatile, more prone to sudden mood swings and emotional outbursts. The process of filming East of Eden, and especially that scene, had destabilized something in him. He'd opened doors to his trauma that he couldn't fully close again. Dean threw himself into motorcycle racing, fast cars, dangerous stunts. Friends worried he had a death wish. Maybe he did. Maybe after excavating his deepest pain for the camera, after bleeding that publicly and that completely, some part of him felt there was nothing left to protect. Elia Kazan noticed it too. He'd extracted an incredible performance from Dean, but at what cost? Years later, Kazan admitted he'd pushed Dean too hard, asked him to go to places that were psychologically dangerous. "You can't not like a guy with that much pain in him," Kazan said. "But maybe I should have protected him from his own pain instead of using it." The birthday scene in East of Eden fundamentally changed what audiences expected from film acting. Before Dean, performances were measured by technical skill, clear diction, controlled gestures, precise emotional beats. Acting was about craft, control, showing the audience what you wanted them to see. Dean showed something else was possible. Acting as emotional nakedness, performance as vulnerability, cinema as confession. He proved that audiences would respond powerfully to authenticity, especially, when that authenticity was uncomfortable and difficult to watch. After East of Eden, young actors studied that birthday scene obsessively. Paul Newman watched it repeatedly, trying to understand how Dean accessed such raw emotion. Montgomery Clift, himself a master of vulnerable performances, was awed by Dean's willingness to be that exposed. Marlon Brando, who Dean was constantly compared to, admitted Dean had taken emotional honesty to a place even Brando hadn't dared go. The scene became a teaching tool at the actor's studio. Lee Strasberg showed it to students as an example of perfect method work, drawing on real pain to create authentic emotion. But he also warned them, this is dangerous. Dean was damaged by this. Don't try this unless you're prepared to pay the price. Many actors tried anyway. The 1960s and 1970s saw a generation of performers who wanted to bleed on camera like Dean had. Some created brilliant work. Others destroyed themselves trying to access pain they weren't equipped to process. The birthday scene became a template and a warning. This is what's possible if you're willing to sacrifice everything for truth in performance. But maybe truth isn't always worth the sacrifice. East of Eden premiered on March 9, 1955. James Dean attended, nervous about how audiences would respond to his first major film role. The screening was a triumph. People wept during the birthday scene. They stood and applauded afterward. Dean was officially a star. 6 months later, on September 30th, 1955, James Dean died in a car crash. He was 24 years old. East of Eden was the only one of his 3 major films that he lived to see released. He never got to watch Rebel Without a Cause or Giant with audiences. The birthday scene took on new resonance after his death. Viewers watched Cal Trask desperately seeking his father's love and thought about James Dean, who died still wounded by his own father's rejection. They watched Cal's breakdown and understood they were seeing a real person's real pain, not just a character's manufactured emotion. The scene became Dean's testament, proof of his incredible talent, yes, but also documentation of his damage. Future generations would study the birthday scene and see a young man so desperate to be loved, so hungry for approval, that he was willing to destroy himself emotionally to get it. In a terrible way, that's exactly what happened. Dean did destroy himself for love, for recognition, for the acceptance he never fully received. The method demanded it. Hollywood rewarded it. And he died before he could heal from it. Today, nearly 70 years after East of Eden was filmed, the birthday scene remains one of cinema's most powerful moments. Film students analyze it frame by frame. Actors study Dean's technique, though technique is the wrong word for what he was doing. Audiences still weep watching Cal Trask's heartbreak in real time. The scene endures because pain is universal. Everyone has wanted desperately to please a parent. Everyone has offered a gift, literal or metaphorical, hoping it would finally earn love. Everyone has experienced the shattering disappointment when that gift is rejected, when you realize that nothing you do will ever be enough. James Dean understood this better than anyone. He'd lived it. He'd carried that wound his entire short life. And for 5 minutes on a Warner Brothers soundstage, he stopped hiding it. He let the camera see everything. The hope, the desperation, the devastation, the rage. That's why we can't look away. That's why the scene still breaks hearts. Because it's not acting, it's truth. It's a 23-year-old man showing us exactly what rejection looks like, how it feels, how it destroys you from the inside out. The birthday scene was the moment James Dean's real trauma exploded on screen. And we're still watching the explosion, still feeling its force, still marveling at a young man brave enough, or damaged enough, to bleed for art. It cost him everything. But it gave us something rare and precious. 5 minutes of absolute truth in a medium built on beautiful lies. This is the channel where we tell the untold stories of James Dean. The love he lost, the life he lived, the legend he became. If you enjoyed this story, please hit the like button and subscribe. There are more hidden truths waiting to be uncovered, and you won't want to miss them.